Can't believe I am still talking about you. That feeling, I should have lost it. I should have lost it by now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Anthony Valadez from KCRW, and today we are hanging out with Mr. James Blake. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good.
So good
nice
to
see you again.
Likewise.
So well.
First off, I want to know, preparing for such a show must require a lot of work. Describe the process.
Well, I mean, beyond the just standard rehearsing the songs kind of thing with my band, there's also this, it's not just a given that anything we write for the orchestra is going to sound good. We've got to make sure that the arrangements fit with the songs and feel like we're putting the orchestra to the best possible use. So I didn't want to make it too standard in the sense of the arrangements and stuff, and I wanted a little bit of interplay and just some unusual elements, some unusual instrument choices and stuff like that to kind of really bring out they're incredible playing essentially. But I've been working with Nico Muhly to really get the most out of it.
As a music fan and a performer, were there ever moments where you got goosebumps hearing the strings under your music live?
Yeah, I think that you're not really ready for that feeling. I've never done that before, so it's a magical feeling.
One of the magical components to seeing you live is how you reproduce that studio sound in the live setting. There were times when I was like, there's no way he can do it, and you do it.
I mean, credit to Ben and Rob as well, because they help me. I mean, they kind of go through every sound with me and figure out, we kind of divvy up who's going to play each thing, and it could be like a weird, mutant cowbell sound from an 808, or some strange vocal sample, or some odd percussive element that Rob will play instead, or maybe he'll do it on the modular synth. But it's figuring out how to take these songs and realize them in this live setting is probably one of my favorite parts of the process. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And when we finally get it, because there's only three of us, and we don't play at all with any MIDI clicks, or we don't have a computer in the background playing stems or anything like that. It's just purely live. We're hopefully like a jazz trio, But in order to do that, it takes a lot of. It just takes a little bit of pruning. Some parts can't be played. There are some things in the track that just are never going to be performed live because there's just too many parts, and we've only got 6 hands and some feet.
Yeah.
Rob's even playing in some songs he's playing an organ style bass, like the bass notes of a church organ. He's playing bass on his left foot, expression pedal on his right, and notes on playing the notes on his on a different synth on a keyboard, or the guitar at the same time, or cello. It's nuts. And having them, such multi-instrumentalists and brilliant, talented musicians, is really the only way I could do that.
We both swim out to sea. You lost me willingly, but that was yesterday. You knew it would get done.
No MIDI, no click tracks. Just, does that give you the freedom to take it where it goes?
It does, because ultimately, playing with Ableton, playing with MIDI clicks or whatever, it seems like it would give you freedom by giving you, the ability to play more parts, more, maybe there's a synth you can't play with your hands, so you have it going on in the background. For me, it's only restricted us from feeling free as musicians, because ultimately the tempo that you're keeping to is a machine. And if you mess up, then in that scenario, it's all revealed, like the curtain, everybody sees behind the curtain. When you're just playing with no click, it is harder to prepare that show, but we've got the freedom to extend sections or improvise it every night, like change the way we deliver it, change the tempo if we want to, change it. It's just far more free. Just purely as musicians, it gives us that freedom, which in other music, other than electronic music, has just been the way for countless years. So it seems it's almost insane that I'm like, oh, and we don't play with a MIDI click. It's like, duh, like no one else did.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the word freedom. With freedom comes challenge. Are there any challenges in doing what you're doing on stage?
Yeah. I mean, the challenge for me is not making it too technological. So playing electronic music, but not relying on using technology in certain moments, whether it would require pressing a button, turning it, if I have to do something too technical too many times during a song, it breaks the flow of actually playing it. Our favorite songs are the ones where we don't need to inject it with some technological element too much. For example, we were trying to figure out a long time how to link the modular synth to the drummer, where without having to constantly adjust the tempo of the modular synth or whatever, like a sequence that's going like like an arpeggiator or something. And eventually we figured it out that we essentially have Ben's kick drums sent to the modular, and the modular is ascertaining the tempo at any one time and spitting out that tempo in the sequencer, which then is playing, which means that Ben can just speed up and slow down the modular synth whenever he wants, which means everything is tied to him, not tied to a computer, which would be the other way around. We tried it the other way around, and it's just like clipping the wings of the drummer. It's like, just let the drummer be the tempo. If he's a good drummer, then we're good.
It sounds like half of the process is figuring how to make it work and being creative.
Yeah, just trying to just play. Not overthink while you're playing, while you're trying to emote. I don't want to be thinking about like, oh, I've got to change the patch at this point, and I've got to the filter cutoff needs to be at this point during this part of the song. It's like, then I've got to I feel like more like a machine. It's not a performance to me, and it's more like it's more of a exhibition.
You want to keep it human.
Yeah, as much as I can in the context of electronic music. Also, what's electronic music now? I mean, I've said this before, but it's like, all music, almost all music has some electronic element.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the process or in the performance. So it's a misnomer now.
Yeah.
It's just music, and we're trying to play it as naturally as possible.
Loved me so much. Why'd you go?
How would you describe, I mean, I know it's weird for you to describe your own evolution because it's you and you're doing it, but in a few words, how would you describe how you got from A to B? And I know that's a tough question.
I'm not sure I'm at B yet. That's the problem. I got from A to somewhere in between A and B by, I don't know. It's going to sound cliche, but trying to be as authentic as possible and not allowing in any voice that says, "Oh, don't do it this way because people won't accept you."
It's part of being human.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's a very human thing to worry that people aren't going to accept you. But ultimately, we can't really truly authentically live or perform or write if we're too worried about that.
There was a time during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
The height of the pandemic. And just like all your fans, you did an IG Live. And you played some songs on the piano. And it was one of the most magical times for me as a music fan, where we were all uncertain of our future. But you got behind those keys and you did what you did, and it was magic.
Well, I was incredibly uncertain in my own future, and I've written about that on this record. And I think I think all of us had some degree of that. And I'm just glad that, it gave me an outlet, massively, and people were just so sweet, and that was a moment that I felt very accepted you know, in a way that I guess only in that moment, only IG Live could have facilitated, really. It was nice to just, after so long, to just be able to reconnect and, you know, perform for people and stuff.
Yeah, it was magic. You know, Vince Staples mentioned his latest album was inspired by not having to tour and basically creating a headphone experience.
I like that.
Did you feel any of that in creating this record?
It was funny because now he's going to have to tour it.
Right?
But yeah, that is, I think, to a large extent, what a lot of musicians were probably grappling with, or indeed writing in this new context, where it's like, do we even know when we can release it, you know, or when we can perform it, or whatever? I'm not sure if I've effectively written for live performance either, ever really. I think probably all my albums are headphone listens. And then when we translate it to a live experience, then it becomes a live experience. But they do sound different live a little bit, just to get there to that feeling.
And if you could share some advice to some of these young musicians, say maybe 10-year-olds, what would you tell that young creative?
Ooh. I'd say that the instrument, your chosen instrument, whether it be the voice or an instrument, and the theory and the kind of the vocabulary with which to speak through that instrument, harmony, melody, it's so important now more than ever, I'd say. Learning the chords, learning the theory, learning as much freedom as you can on that instrument so you never feel boxed in musically is the most important thing. And computers can come second or even third, I'd say. Because I think a lot of people didn't realize that I did about 10 or 15 years of learning the theory and learning and really practicing hard at my instrument before I even picked up a laptop. And to me, the thing that you can audibly hear is being lost in modern music is a freedom of harmony. And if you can, the next generation, I really hope, just enjoy your instrument, enjoy singing, enjoy writing, enjoy all that stuff away from technology first, just to really connect with music, because technology can actually have a bit of a disconnective effect, if anything.
I just figured out your A and B.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Bedroom producer to being backed by the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, honestly, it's like in a way it's coming full circle. Well, starting out completely analog, going into this digital realm, and then coming back out and kind of uniting the two.